We don't know the status of Karan Prenti
Yes.
of A&T's one of the best corners in all of the country.
And of course, as you said, we don't know his status yet, and the Aggies are starting CAA play next week against a really tough Delaware team, and hopefully it's nothing serious, but we won't know until the game is over. I mean, until after we get the medical reports. But we got to give a lot of credit to both teams, a lot of credit to the Aggie team who went down the field and put the field goal up to tie the game when they had to, and then of course scored the winning touchdown in overtime. And of course the Rams just played their hearts out. They just did an outstanding job, and hopefully this is something that they can build on to as they start their CIAA season next week. So great game all around.
Very well played game too, Al. Of course, there were times in the game when there was some jaw jacking and everything, but you expect that out of a rivalry game. And I think both athletic directors, according to some news that came over, are discussing the possibility of putting this on the schedule at some time. Right now, I think A&T's schedule for the next 2 years is pretty much confirmed with their non-conference schedule. Next year, they don't have room for it, and the year after that too. So this is the possibility somewhere down the road.
Well, Coach Massey mentioned that in his interview with Donal, that he would like to see this to be, a yearly thing. And we can tell by the crowd. I mean, it was a sold-out crowd tonight.
Yeah.
And the game was so exciting that we didn't even witness the famous third quarter walkout. I mean, everybody stayed. And, so I think it would be a great thing for both schools. And probably Wilson might want to have it on, home and home. And they don't have the facilities in terms of the number of Patriots that they can get into the game. But, I mean, that's something that could be worked out. But it was well worth the wait, 14 years. And, boy, I tell you, it was an unbelievable game.
No doubt about it. We're in the Blue and Gold post-game show here on the Aggie Sports Radio Network. If you're watching us on the A&T Facebook or A&T Athletics YouTube page, join in on the conversation. 27-20 A&T with the overtime victory over Winston-Salem State. And I'll tell you what, Winston-Salem State, and this is the thing, we always look at what A&T didn't do and why didn't A&T do this and that and the other. Winston-Salem State came to play. Just like in the first half last week, A&T came to play. At some point, you've got to give a lot of credit to the Rams.
No doubt about it. I mean, as we said earlier, they did not come for a participation trophy. They came to win. And, they just played their hearts out. I was really surprised at how tough their defense was. We knew their quarterback was pretty good. He had a great year last year. But their defense was absolutely terrific. And, they pursued well. They played well the entire game. And as you said, Donald, I think it really leaves them a lot to build upon as they start their CIAA schedule next week.
All right, let's do this. We're still here. I want us to run the very last play of the game. And this is what preserved A&T's 27-20 overtime victory over Winston-Salem State. Out of the gun for Lee. Lee has the snap. Lee on the run. Lee looking. Now he tosses it wide open. He missed him, and the game is over. He had the tight end wide open in the end zone and missed him. And A&T's going to escape with the 27-20 overtime victory over Winston-Salem State. So that's how the game ended, and that's how A&T won the game. Shamer says Aggies won, but this is a reality check. They basically lost to a D2 school. Well, no, Rod Broadway used to say all wins are good wins.
Exactly.
Yeah. This is in the win column, and you got to give, I think, a lot of credit to Winston-Salem State. Kermit says turn KJ loose. He's ready. And what do you think? Turn him loose?
Well, we talked about in the pregame that one of the things that we were hoping for in terms of keys to the game was that they would get him more involved in the offense in terms of, running that RPO and the spread option. And he did. He threw the ball well, and he's an exciting player. And I'm sure as the season goes on, he's going to be more involved in the offense.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, you look at his numbers. He was 21 of 32, 174 yards, 1 touchdown. He had 1 interception. He rushed for 34 yards in the ball game as well. Let's talk about Dalen Lee. He was 13 of 27, 122 yards. That's the thing about it. It's Winston-Salem State didn't have spectacular numbers. They just made really, really good plays when it counted the most.
That is the key, Don. They didn't put up any gaudy numbers, but when they needed to make a play on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively, they were able to do so. And just by pure hustle and determination, as you said earlier, they just kept hanging around. They wouldn't go away, and they kept themselves in a position where they could win the ball game. So all the credit in the world to the Rams.
It's dangerous, Al, and what you said is true. It's very dangerous when you have a team that just keeps hanging around.
Yep.
And you have to be very careful as to what you do. A&T did come back and did an outstanding job. KJ White grew up a lot in this last game. He really did. But Chris Brown, that young man who didn't play last year because of he got hurt in preseason and it cost him a whole year. But we are so happy to have him back on the roster again this year, doing what he does best, and that's kicking that football. And he did an outstanding job today. 51-yarder or 52 with 5 or 6 yards to spare, but the one that sent us into overtime, that was a pressure kick. You call it whatever you want to.
Yeah, that's pressure.
That was a pressure kick, and he handled it very well. So he gets my game ball. If I had a game ball to give to someone, KJ,
Andrew Brown.
Andrew Brown will get my game ball tonight.
Yep, Daryl says this game stressed me out. He said, shout out to the kicker, Andrew Brown. Pamela said, same. Timothy said this was an embarrassing win, maybe our only win this season. Daryl says we have work to do on both sides of the ball. This should have been a more definitive win for the Aggies. Ulysses says, great game. Hopefully this will be a confidence booster. Got a tough opponent coming in next week, as we talked about. Delaware Conference playing the CAA, and it's obviously going to be a tough game for A&T.
It's going to be tough because Delaware, as we said earlier, big team. They average about 325 up front and a good, strong running game. And they're going to present a big-time challenge to A&T next week. But hopefully we get a big boost from a confidence standpoint from this win tonight. And we can go into that first game of the league season in the CAA with renewed confidence. And who knows? We'll see what happens.
Yeah, let's see. We've got more comments. Daryl says this is going to be a long season for us. He also says, now can we get a CAA win? And Daryl also called Andrew Brown Money Brown. Timothy said, good job to the kicker.
Yeah.
Maurice says, a win is a win. And Common Sense says, long season ahead. So you've got mixed reaction to this win. Again, for me, all wins are good wins. You're in the win column. You have a week to tweak some things. You don't know the status defensively of one of your corners, and in Karan Prunty, that could be an issue. But now you have a week to kind of tweak some things. And this is the thing. Just because you didn't play necessarily well against Winston-Salem State, we got to get this mindset of the D2 situation and upper levels and all that. Winston-Salem State came to play today. It doesn't mean A&T can't play well moving forward, beginning next week with Delaware.
And going back to the interview that Coach Massey had a couple of weeks ago, even though they're playing D2, they had some transfers that came from D1 schools. And so, you just can't look at that level anymore down and say, because a school is a D2 school, that they are subpar, because they're breaking in a lot of transfers now that are playing D1, big-time football. So it sort of, levels the playing field. And A&T tonight, we can say that they didn't play as well as they wanted to, but they put forth a supreme effort, and you got to give Worcester a lot of credit. They really played a good football game tonight.
They sure did, and they had us on the ropes too. But we were able to sustain a good drive late in the game and put it in the hands of our field goal kicker, which sent us into overtime. And the run by Wesley Graves was very good. The hole opened up like the Red Sea, and Al, you and myself could have ran through that hole, and he tiptoed into the end zone untouched for the win. And woo,
well, it was a well-designed play.
Yeah, it was.
And we talked about the change in the offensive philosophy, and we see a better offense. We saw a little bit of it last week against Wake Forest, and we saw a continuation tonight. And it's something that the Aggies can build on. They really can.
They on that play, Al, the A&T sent a man in motion, and the Winston defense went with the motion, which left basically one-on-one coverage. If you could get by the linebacker, you had open field, and he did.
That's what they did.
Yeah,
they ran a guy in motion, and then they ran a trap back to the motion side.
Yeah,
and of course there was nobody there, and that's why I say it was a well-designed play, well drawn-up play, and just the way they wanted it. But what's interesting, we were talking at halftime about what can the Aggies do better. I mean, they really weren't playing what you might call bad football, guys. I mean, it was just a tough game. And to hang in there and win, I mean, really says a lot. And so I think it's something they can build on as we get into the conference schedule next week.
Yep. Nataki says, great job, Aggies, one game at a time. Darryl says, Aggies just want to see consistent improvement. Timothy says, I can't even talk trash to WSSU fans. That's true. Ulysses says, proud. But again, Winston-Salem State played very well.
Yes.
Ulysses says, proud of this team. They could have shut down, but they showed that Aggie pride. Darryl says, but the CAA has a history of not losing to D2 schools. We don't want to be that school. Well, we're not, because A&T, won this football game tonight, and there may not even be a D2 school on the schedule next year for A&T.
Exactly. So, as you said, Coach Broadway used to say, a win is a win.
Right.
Any win is a good win.
Any win is a good win.
Any win is a good win, boy, I tell you.
And our neighbors down the street, North Carolina Central, took it on the chin tonight, 41-19 in Durham against the Phoenix of Elon.
Elon, yeah.
Yeah, and they're going to be tough to handle also.
And of course, we got to play Elon. We got to play Delaware. We got to play Towson. We got to play Richmond. I mean, it's a tough schedule we have in that CAA. So, so all you can ask for A&T is, as a team, if you can improve week to week. And we saw some improvement over last week. And if they can continue to improve week by week, I'm not saying they're going to win a lot of games, but I think they're going to be really competitive in the CAA.
All right, a couple of more thoughts here before we wrap it up here on the Blue and Gold post-game show. And I apologize for the mispronunciation. If it's Shamer, says tough season ahead. Ricky says WSSU played phenomenal ball.
Mm-hmm.
Christina says congratulations to Andrew Brown and team, proud of my nephew. And I think we're going to give Anthony the last word. He says, absolute Aggie pride. I'll take an ugly win over a pretty loss. And I think that really sums it up for the evening. So we're going to get ready to wrap it up. Next up for North Carolina A&T, the Delaware Blue Hens come here to Truist Stadium on the campus of North Carolina A&T State University. And it's a 2 o'clock kickoff. And we're coming on with the pregame show beginning at 1:30. Also, don't forget about the coaches show and the luncheon. The Coaches Show with the head football coach of North Carolina A&T, Vincent Brown, happens every Monday at the Student Union Room 387. And so we're going to be there again. The lunch is sponsored by AAF. If you're not an AAF member, you may want to log on to the A&T website, ncataggies.com, and find out how you can become a member either of the AAF or perhaps purchase tickets for the lunch. I wouldn't advise just to come out if you're not an AAF member. If you are, we look forward to seeing you like we see the AAF members each and every weekend. If you're not an AAF member, you may want to consider joining the AAF. And again, more information about the AAF, Aggie Athletic Foundation, which is a fundraising arm of North Carolina A&T athletics in particular and specifically. You can log on to the official athletic website of A&T at ncataggies.com. Thank you to our man, Dez, back at the studios of the Aggie Sports Radio Network for all of his outstanding work. For Al Swann and Billy Covington, Donal Ware saying so long for now from Truist Stadium on the campus of North Carolina A&T State University in Greensboro. Your final score, A&T 27, Winston-Salem State 20 in overtime. You've been listening to Aggie Football on the Aggie Sports Radio Network.